Hello and welcome to part 1 of Psychology of a Fangirl with an emphasis on fan fiction. The first part is going to be very information heavy, but we hope you stick around and learn a little something. Part 2 is going to be a lot of yapping and gabbing and talking about all the different things in the world of fan fiction. So if that's not your thing, that's okay. We'll see you next episode at the next talkie. Good afternoon, Christina.
Hi.
Coming in hot on the mic today.
Oh, the hottest.
I am so excited
Yeah.
to tell you about this. I stayed up. This is like numerous days worth of research, and I stayed up way too late last night perfecting it.
Mm-hmm. I
even made you a multiple choice test that we'll come back to later.
Goody. So everyone gets to know my score.
You don't have to share your... We'll come back to that later.
Okay. All right, cool.
So, today's watering hole, the parasocial relationships and the psychology of a fangirl, with an emphasis on the importance of fan fiction. I sound like I'm going to do a dissertation.
A little bit.
But I'm not your sister. I'm not that cool.
She is pretty cool.
I know. She's the coolest. I can say that for sure. I met her finally. Shall we jump right in, or do you have any questions to start us off? Is there anything you want to know or anything that makes you think of before we begin?
No, I feel like I'll have questions along the way, but...
Oh, I guarantee you will.
But not right off the bat.
Okay, so we should start off with, what is a parasocial relationship? Have you heard the term?
I have.
Great. So, a little definition. A parasocial relationship is a one-sided relationship between a person and a persona. So, think about it like this. A person is someone like you or I. Mm-hmm. And then a persona is a celebrity, an organization such as a sports team, a TV star, an actor, a celebrity, that kind of person. Mm-hmm. And that persona is the object that is receiving the emotional energy or interest from the person.
Right.
Like you or I. That is not to say a famous person can't be in a parasocial relationship as well. My main focus is specifically on the average viewer and their interests. Parasocial relationships are a voluntary relationship. They provide companionship, are influenced by social attraction, and are used to express feelings.
All right.
So we got that covered. Now, a big question that you might have, or the general audience might have, is what is a fangirl or a fanboy, and how does it differ from being a casual fan?
Yeah, like, I'm sure there are levels that I'm unaware of.
I'm sure there are. Like, and I feel like it's one of those casual things. Like, in my personal opinion, it's one of those things where it's a self-defined thing.
Okay.
As well as a thing defined on the outside.
Okay.
So, let's get into the actual definitions. I got Merriam-Webster up in here to help us out.
Oh, Miriam. What a doll. Merriam-Webster
defines a fan as this: fan, noun, an enthusiastic devotee as of sports or a performing art, usually as a spectator, or an ardent admirer or enthusiast of a celebrity or pursuit.
So, you like a thing. Like, that's
fan, yeah.
Yeah.
You like a thing. Fangirl, noun. A girl or woman who is extremely or overly enthusiastic about someone or something. As in a fan.
Overly enthusiastic is probably the best word.
Fangirl, as in the verb, fangirled, fangirling, or fangirls, is to exhibit fandom often to an extremely devoted or overly excited amount.
Gotcha.
So, this brings up a few more questions. Like, when does a person move from a casual fan to a fangirl? Is it when they join the fandom, or when you start running a dedicated blog? Is it writing fan fiction? Is it bringing it up more than once a week in conversation? At, like, what point
right
does somebody become a fangirl?
Right, there's got to be some sort of line that you cross at some point.
And I was thinking about it just now, in fact.
Oh.
where you could probably go back and listen to our episodes and hear me slowly realize and come to terms with the fact that I'm probably... No, I think I am, unfortunately, a Tom Cruise fangirl.
We know this.
I know, but I think you can see me slowly coming to terms with it. Oh, God, this would have been a really good episode to actually have a video on, because it's just me having secondhand embarrassment the whole time. But that's good. It's good for me. I'm too comfortable. Or I'm not uncomfortable enough. We'll see.
No.
So I am a self-proclaimed fangirl. I have been all my life before I even understood what being a fangirl meant. It started with the music industry and obsessing over listening to the same CD again and again and again.
It's a Bon Jovi CD, right?
Yep, it was These Days by Bon Jovi. I wore out our first CD and then we bought 3 more. My mom made a joke one time about being happy that she worked at the Walmart at the time because she could pick them up on the regular.
Easy peasy.
Yep, I had one for each of my parents' cars, and I had one for my Walkman, and we had an extra one that sat in the cupboard at home.
It just sat there?
It just sat there for whenever the next one wore out.
And I'm assuming you always replenished that one?
Yeah,
I
think by the time I was over that CD, there were 2 copies of it left that were still working, and they skipped. But they still registered. I wore them out to the point where you would put them in the CD player and it wouldn't even register that there was a CD. Oh my God. Because it just would not play anymore. I was also a child, so scratching them and making them basically unusable, whatever.
Yeah.
Illegible was the word I was thinking of.
Well, it is reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, technically speaking, the machinery is reading it, so I guess that makes sense.
Then when I was 12, or I guess kind of earlier, but 12 is like when I fully remember like cemented memories of these, where I was introduced to both fandom and bandom as a culture on social media. Tumblr and Instagram gave way to fanfiction, fan edits, and fandom pages, and as of now, these things are still a large portion of my life. Fan-related works and the communities themselves may have changed, but the concept is still there. I guess before we get into the history, I had a little interesting thought about parasocial relationships, and within my study. I found that parasocial relationships don't actually have to exist in the real world. We as a people form parasocial relationships with fictional characters in books, TV, film, and other media all the time. It's not solely, a celebrity.
Right, yeah.
People latch on to things like Harry Potter. Yeah, jump scare for that, sorry. You'll be hearing that a lot this episode. Or, people,
they like
get their little fingies into anything and can form a parasocial relationship with it.
Yeah.
So why do we do this? And why do we engage in one-sided relationships? Why do we care? So there are millions of examples we could look into, such as the Star Trek series, numerous Star Trek series, in fact, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Quantum Leap, the Gilmore Girls, or is it just Gilmore Girls?
It's just Gilmore Girls.
Just Gilmore Girls. They're all things you've heard us talk about on this podcast before. We could look into real-world examples like Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and what being a Swiftie looks like, the royal family.
Oh, yeah.
The Kardashians. The list goes on and on. It doesn't just stop... It's not an our generation thing or a your generation thing. This spans. So who were the first fangirls? The first possible use of the word fangirl came from A.P. Herbert's book Holy Deadlock, where the term was used to describe young women obsessed with musicians all the way back in 1943.
Oh, okay.
So we're...
The actual term.
Yeah,
the
term
first time it
fangirl
was utilized. Okay.
Yes. The term became popular in the public vernacular during the era of the Beatles.
Of course.
The press used the term Beatlemania to describe the hold the musicians had on their fans via parasocial relationship. The term fandom rose to popularity with the science fiction community. Then in the 1960s, Star Trek began and it gained popularity with women as well as men. With that came scrutiny as science fiction was dominated by male interest, but it was with the women that the modern culture of fandom was born. we have women to thank for this, and I love that so much.
Great.
It is thought that the first well-known female-written fan fiction originated from the Star Trek fandom via the use of fanzines in 1967.
Oh, okay.
So that was before my mom was born, for context.
Mm-hmm.
So
Same for my parents.
This is the shit our grandparents were doing.
Interesting.
I
can't imagine my grandfather just over here twiddling his thumbs one day and the next day he's geeking out.
He's geeking out, indeed. This fanzine was called Spocknalia, and many other amateur writers followed in its wake.
Of course, Spock was the first. Jesus.
Spocknalia. This led to the invention of slashfic, which takes two popular characters from a piece of media and enters them in a relationship with one another, typically in a homosexual manner. Did I say manager? Because that's definitely what I heard.
I also heard that.
Typically in a homosexual manner. Slashfic gets its name from the Star Trek fandom, where a actual slash was used, written between the K and S to denote a gay relationship between Kirk and Spock in the fic or fanzine.
Okay.
So that you'll hear slashfic
Okay.
is the male equivalent, and then femme slash is the female equivalent for gay and lesbian relationships within the fandom.
Interesting.
There's so much fandom history I could go into, but that's not what we're here to discuss.
It's a lot of terminology too.
Oh my god. You have no idea. Okay. So why did it become popular? It gave consumers numerous things such as a serotonin boost or joy that viewing the original media does, while at the same time giving a different look into the universe or person's life. Quotes. Around life. These fan-made medias gave audiences a look into the world that the characters would not show on screen. It also allows audiences to feel like they know the character personally.
Okay.
And that thought will come back later I found a study about parasocial relationships and high school students.
Okay.
So we'll come back to that in a little bit.
Cool.
So think about it like this. Do you consider yourself in a parasocial relationship with anything off the top of your head?
Not really.
Okay.
Not at this point in my life anyway.
You're not a scary movie person, but I know we have some audience members that might be. So how many times have you been...
Who says I'm not a scary movie person?
You're not a movie person.
Okay, fair. But if I'm going to watch a movie, I'd like to be scary.
Okay, so how many times have you been watching a scary movie and tell the characters not to go towards the sound or to run out loud while you're watching the movie?
Probably when I was a teenager and never again.
Okay.
But it's a pretty common occurrence, you're right.
How about when watching sports? Do you cheer for your team while they're on TV?
100%.
Do you boo the other team through the TV?
Probably not, no. Because, negativity is not...
Right.
If you're in it, then yeah, I've booed because everybody else around me was booing, but otherwise...
Fair enough. But you've definitely cheered for your team through the television.
100%, yeah.
Or over the radio if you're... I don't know if you were listening to the football game on the radio on the drive to work or whatever.
No, not me, but there are people that exist like that out there.
I will definitely listen to hockey when I'm home on the radio if I can catch it.
You are that person.
Basically, they can't hear us. So why are we doing it? Why are we cheering? That's because we have formed a parasocial relationship to them. Well, we might cover this up by saying we cheer for the love of the game or that we got lost in the media. The truth is we feel a real connection. That is your team. That is the team you claim, and you would not claim them if you didn't have some sort of parasocial relationship with them.
Okay.
More or less. Generally, you wouldn't claim them. Especially if you weren't, if you were not following the sport, you wouldn't claim them, right?
Yeah.
Back home, I don't claim the Mammoths because I don't watch indoor lacrosse.
That's fair. Who does?
A lot of people.
Oh.
We have two lacrosse teams back home, an indoor and an outdoor. Lacrosse is big in Colorado.
Ooh.
Anyway, how does this relate back to psychology? Not the lacrosse thing, the parasocial relationship thing.
Okay.
Some scientists believe that we attach to characters or celebrities during our adolescence that allow us to explore our autonomous selves, whether that be interests, gender, sexuality, race, or other points of interest, which makes so much sense to me. Because how many times have you heard from minorities, I want people on screen that look like me?
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever experienced that growing up.
Like,
you wanting people on screen that looked like you.
I mean, maybe a little. It was more like,
Sorry.
before quirky was the cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was quirky, or you know, I was not cheerleader.
Right.
I was doofy looking kid. I wanted doofy looking kids.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the most generalized thing I could think of that makes sense.
I always really attached to disabled characters, even when they were disabled in a different way than I was.
Mm.
So typically, whatever character's in a wheelchair, that's my bitch. Like, I'm not personally in a wheelchair, but that is another disabled human that I can see myself with.
Right.
I also attach to a lot of minority characters. As a disabled minority person, even though I am a white woman, I always really related back to the middle class people or the minority. So like the black people, like Princess Tiana. She was always my favorite princess.
Mm.
She didn't look like me. There's so many princesses that look like me. I'm a white woman.
Right.
But they never had the same connection
Struggles.
to me.
Because you saw how, like, her economic status.
Yes.
And you related that to yourself.
Yes.
So it was more about what was going on in her world rather than what she looked like.
Right.
Okay.
But it's we as a people want people that look like us. Like, I have a stepbrother, in case anybody needed to know that. And I got to bring him to see Into the Spider-Verse in theaters. And he finally had Spider-Man that looked like him. Mm-hmm. And I cried, and he cried. And it was just, everybody in the theater was crying because there were so many people that were finally like, wow, Spider-Man looks like me.
That's cool.
And it was wonderful. But there's that parasocial relationship again. If we didn't care, we wouldn't have had such a reaction, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
So other scientists believe that adolescents pick their person of interest because they receive a feeling or are in a situation that the viewer themselves desire. So like the Kardashians, they're rich, they're famous, they're perceived as beautiful and powerful, and so a person might attach themselves to Kourtney Kardashian or Kendall. Who has the makeup line?
I have no idea.
Whichever one has the makeup line because they're interested in makeup or whatever, right?
Right.
So they may attach themselves because that's what they desire, and so they pick a person that emulates that, right?
Okay.
This thought can be backed up by the popularity of YN fic, which is written in second person. So YN, it's Y/N written out, and it stands for your name, right?
Okay.
So it's fanfic written in second person, and it draws the reader right in the center of the action with their choice of media, right? So, like, a good one, I guess, to relate back to, as much as I hate talking about it, it's Harry Potter, because I know pretty much everybody at least has a fundamental understanding of the characters of Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. So instead of it just being Harry and Hermione and Ron, Christina's in it too.
Oof.
So then you read whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it says, oh, Christina helps Ron, take the, I don't know, dark corridor or whatever, right? I don't know much about Harry Potter besides their names. Sorry. Okay, not a media I consumed.
All good.
But, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So a study by Boone and Lamore in 2001 found that 38.7% of young adults picked prevalent actors, 30.7% picked musicians, and the other roughly 30% picked people that didn't fall into those two categories. It was also found that deceased media figures were also factored into the large percentage of actors. So it didn't have to be living actors, just actors in general.
Oh.
While it was infrequent to mention non-artistic celebs like Einstein and Bill Gates in this study, it's also important to note that the study does not look into the specific appeal of the chosen person or the type of relationship imagined therein. So it didn't look of, are you imagining these people in a romantic sense or in a platonic sense, dating or colleagues or authority figure. It didn't look into that sort of relationship.
Okay.
But in a study done at a public high school in the U.S. in a U.S. northeastern suburb, 107 girls and 61 boys, all ninth graders, were surveyed about parasocial relationships. 7 girls and 8 boys did not identify with a parasocial relationship, which left the study to 100 girls and 53 boys.
Okay.
Sorry, this might be a lot of numbers coming at you. Let me know if you need me to slow down. They picked their favorite celebrity, described them, their relationship with them, and what they admired most. They also answered questions using the Likert scale. The 1 is strong, the scale. 1 is strongly disagree, 3 is neutral, and 5 is strongly agree.
Yeah, that guy.
That guy.
Okay.
To help determine emotional intensity and dedication to their persona, essentially.
Okay.
Good soundbite. Okay, so emotional intensity. The 3 questions that were asked were, how strongly do you feel about them? How connected do you feel to them? And how well do you feel like you know them? So 1 was none, 2 was low, 3 was moderate, 4 was high, and 5 was very high.
Okay.
So how strongly do you feel about them? 70% of people checked high or very high.
Oh.
How connected do you feel to them? 88% of people checked high or very high. For how well do you feel like you know them? 67% checked high or very high.
I mean, we're also talking about high school students, right?
Yes.
So,
But
the emotional capacity that they have, they don't have realities hitting them. They don't have...
Right.
Sometimes real life gets in the way and you stop caring about stuff like that.
Right.
Or, And high schoolers, they... everything is the most important thing in the world.
Yes.
So it makes sense why we're seeing such high numbers.
Yes. But it's interesting to take these and look back and go, okay, are you focused on them because they are living a life that you want, or because you relate to them in some way? It's kind of interesting to look at the numbers and go, okay, 70% of people feel strongly about them. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is? I don't have a whole lot with it. This study was very big and so much information. So pardon if I digested it incorrectly and the numbers might be a little bit off. This is just what I'm understood from all of the hardcore science jargon that they were talking.
Yeah.
So as far as dedication goes, they ranked on a Likert scale 1 to 4. So 1 was less than once a week, 2 was several times a week, 3 was once a day, and 4 was several times a day.
Okay.
So 54% of people checked a 3 or a 4 for the question, how often do you think about them?
Oh.
And then 89% of people checked a 3 or a 4 for the question, how often do you imagine meeting this person?
Oh. Yikes.
So what does this tell us? There was more in the study that I didn't need to go over, but here's a bunch of the results that they found.
Okay.
Boys favor athletes, while girls favor actresses. Boys tended to pick a general celebrity, such as a talk show host or a newscaster, more than girls did. In fact, none of their girls picked a general celebrity. Actors and singers were picked more for their looks, while non-artists and athletes were picked for their talent, which feels weird considering singers you would think would be picked for talent, but they were more often picked for how they looked than for the talent that they have.
I believe that. I believe that 100%.
94.12% of those surveyed provided descriptions of how they thought the figure of how they thought of the figure in relation to themselves. Boys imagined their relationship in a hierarchical terms, while girls tended to imagine friendship or relationships. So boys saw the person that they picked as a role model or as a leader, while girls saw them as a friend or a potential love interest. Surprisingly, 75% of the boys engaged in parasocial relationships, while only 53% of the girls do long-term.
Oh.
So boys were more often to have long-term parasocial relationships than girls were.
I guess that makes sense, especially if they've already established, like, that's a role model figure. Like, they want to keep that up so that they're always striving to be that role model.
Yeah. Though 57.6% of adolescents think their 57.6% of adolescents think of their celebrity in a relationship term, friendship, or otherwise. Well, the others don't. The other percentage does not think of them in a relationship term at all. They're a separate entity in and of themselves.
Oh.
So going back to the use of parasocial relationships to explore identity, let's talk fan fiction. Again, we're back. You may not think you know fanfic, but I know that you do. E.L. James wrote Masters of the Universe, which was originally a Twilight fan fiction that became the ever-popular 50 Shades of Grey when it was picked up by a publisher and repackaged into a slightly different box.
I believe that 100%.
The City of Bones series by Cassandra Clare was originally a Harry Potter fan fiction known as the Draco Trilogy. It's since been taken offline.
Oh, okay.
The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood was originally a Rilo Star Wars AU found on AO3 called Head Over Feet.
You said so many things just now, and some of them made sense in my brain and others did not.
The Love Hypothesis, Star Wars fanfiction, alternate universe. Rilo, it's Rey and Kylo Ren.
Oh.
Ship together.
I don't even know. I'm gonna be in a bad way with some people now. I've not seen those movies.
I haven't seen them either.
Okay.
I've been on Tumblr long enough to know what the fuck Rilo is, and that's about it.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Okay.
After by Anna Todd was originally a One Direction Harry Styles fanfiction found on Wattpad that has since been turned into like 3 books.
Holy hell.
Point Pleasant by Jen Archer Wood was originally a Supernatural fanfiction posted on AO3 under the same name.
Is it about Mothman?
I have no idea. It's a Supernatural fanfiction.
It's Point Pleasant.
I assume it's about Mothman, okay?
Okay.
When I read it, I was like, wow, that's a Mothman thing, but I didn't look further into it.
Okay, fair enough.
Mostly because I've never seen Supernatural either, so it wasn't important to my research.
Okay, fair enough.
Zero the Bone by James Seaville was originally a Brokeback Mountain fan fiction, alternate universe, where they weren't cowboys. And then Roadham by Curtis Sittenfeld is a historical fiction, fan fiction, originally about the Clintons and about what if Hillary Clinton never married Bill Clinton.
Interesting.
So how popular is fanfic really? And this was a question that was on I used to gauge your test.
Okay.
I had a 15-question test that I wrote up for you.
And she didn't appreciate my bonus answer.
I didn't. We'll talk about that in a minute. So it is estimated that 1/3 of all book-related content on the internet is fan fiction, and that doesn't account for any other media. So that doesn't account for fan fiction written about movies, television shows, podcasts, video games, real people. Nothing, just book-related content. Anything from the Bible to the dictionary to Harry Potter.
Is there Holy Bible fanfic?
Yeah. So much.
Huh.
So much. It's thought that, I think it's the Iliad or the Odyssey are also fan fictions. One of them is supposedly a fanfic. Anyway.
Oh.
Don't take my word on that, because that's something I'm pulling from my brain back in high school, and I don't trust her.
Fair.
There are more than 100 million people worldwide reading or writing fanfiction. This is based off accounts for sites like fanfic.net, Wattpad, Tumblr, AO3, and more. Archive of Our Own, otherwise known as AO3, hosts almost 6 million users and over 13 million works since its start. People read so much fanfic on AO3 that the site crashes regularly, aka a couple times a month.
Oh, fuck. Okay, wow.
It crashes so regularly that the tag AO3 on Tumblr trends regularly because that's how you know it's down.
Huh.
And it might just be down for you, or it could be down for everybody. It's a whole thing. There's memes about it. Like, it is a whole thing. I don't have my phone in here, so I can't read you the meme. Okay. As of 2023, within the top 100 ships, there was 346,120 works. Only 4.5% were currently on private mode. Things can only stay on private mode for a month before they're deleted.
Oh.
So they have to be either moved or posted.
Oh.
So almost 350,000 works with only 4% still being like edited. Or unposted essentially.
Interesting.
So I have broad categories for you.
Okay.
This was a question on your test.
Great.
How many Harry Potter fan fictions, or how many fan fiction pieces are tagged Harry Potter on AO3 as of yesterday?
I know the answer.
Do you want to give it to him?
Let me just break out my test that I got. One of those answers is correct. It's 555,302. Blech. Oh, God. That's a large number.
I thought there was more.
Really?
I really did in the grand.
What?
But that's just on AO3. That's not counting everywhere else and all that. But
Right.
for Gilmore Girls, there's 5,119.
Okay.
And then for any fic tagged Marvel, there's
An insane amount.
718,574 as of yesterday. But if we want to get into the most popular ships, Draco/Harry, or Draco Harry / fic, has 64,693 fics. It's
Another question I got right.
You did get that one right. I was really proud.
Guessed, really, but...
The most popular Gilmore Girls fanfic ship is Jess and Rory.
I'm not shocked at that
There's 1,184.
I believe that 100%.
Do you want to guess the most popular ship in Marvel right now?
I guarantee it's gay.
It is gay.
I'm assuming one of them is Deadpool just because he's popular right now. No, we're talking all time?
All time.
All time. Oh, God. It's gotta be Iron Man and Captain America, right?
So close.
So close.
So they're called Stony, and they're a close runner-up, but it's actually Stucky. It's Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes.
I don't understand. Like, I never watched Captain America. That's my problem.
That is your problem. With 58,522 works as of yesterday.
Good God.
But that's just for those ships. Do you want to know what the number one ship as of 2024 or of 2024 was?
Sure. Hit me.
I don't ever know how to pronounce this. It's from Good Omens.
Okay.
Aziraphale and Crowley? He's an angel. I don't know.
I assumed.
Number 2 is Sirius Black and Remus Lupin.
Really?
Yeah. And number 3 is Steve Harrington and Eddie Munson.
Who?
Stranger Things.
Oh.
The Az and Crowley have upward of 15,500. Sirius and Remus have upwards of 12,500. And Steve and Eddie have upwards of 10,500. I'm sorry, that was 2023. That was last year.
Mm. Oh, wait. Now I know who those characters are from Stranger Things.
Uh-oh.
There's a lot of underage children in that whole show.
Uh-huh.
Yikes. But it's not them.
No.
So I get it now.
I have the overall stats for 2024 with the pairing, the canon, and the type. And I'm just going to hand this over, and I want to hear your thoughts about it.
Oh, my God. Oh, no. What is this?